with me this evening is a young man I've known a long time. He's the chairman of NAGICO Group. It's Imjan. How are you doing, sir?
All right. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Yeah. Busy times.
How are things going? It had to be a rough year for you, huh?
Oh, very. One of the toughest years, I would say, for not just NAGICO, but most insurance companies, I believe, would have had a very rough period in the last year, especially with 2 hurricanes. You know, so some islands that were spared with one got slammed by the other, and in some cases, some islands got hit by both. You know, so those things you don't see very often, and I believe in history, it has never happened that 2 Category 5 hurricanes made landfall in the same year in the Caribbean. We had, for example, Lewis and Marlin,
right.
But Lewis was a Cat 5, but Marlin was not when it came here. It was a big storm, but it was not a Category 5.
Right.
So this is the first time it has happened. And we actually were spared a little by Jose, because that was also Category 5 that was heading to these parts and just veered north at the last moment, thankfully. So to have 3 Category 5 hurricanes all going at between 155 to 185 miles an hour, you know, within a period of less than a month was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You know, you've never seen things like that. But I've seen some really bad hurricanes. Lewis was a massive hurricane by any proportions, but to get 2 in the region and hitting land, it's been a tough year. And the good news is we're almost done, and lots of people who feared that NAGICO probably will not survive, you know, the storm of this size. I can't tell you the amount of people who I met within the first 2 weeks that thought that it's, well, probably the end of St. Martin and the end of NAGICO, because so many people depend on NAGICO as well.
Yeah.
You have so much damages. So many people thought there's no way you could survive this. People have told me this. But NAGICO is a well-run organization. You know, we have a very experienced, highly qualified management team, executive team, throughout the region. Wherever we are, we have many chartered underwriters and chartered accountants, and we do a very professional job. But NAGICO arranging our reinsurance and our financial appetite and our risk management, it's at a very high level. So I knew that we would be fine. We would be able to take care of people. You will never please everybody, no matter what you do. If you run a survey, you're not going to get 100% of the people liking O.G. Gibbs. You know, 100% of the world doesn't even like Jesus.
Exactly.
You know, so you know, you always have a percentage that that go another direction and prefer something else. So you're going to get people who are not going to be happy or not going to be satisfied. Our own internal surveys, that which we have done on all the islands where we operate, indicate a greater than 90% satisfaction rate among our policyholders and those who claimed from us. And I think that when you have 2 major catastrophes like that, and you know that kind of rating comes your way, it is very satisfactory knowing that you are going to do a lot on a lot of territories to rebuild those territories and rebuild people's lives and businesses and so on. And yeah, there will be some disappointments, but the truth is I have received many, many, many more thanks from people for being there for them during the storm and after the storm, and looking after them and putting back roofs on their heads and their business back. You know, for every one criticism that come my way, I personally can tell you there was more than 20 times that in thanks that you get. So there's a high satisfaction rate in that, and I am very happy that NAGICO has been able to stand there and will contribute to the recovery of all these islands.
When it comes to insurance, confidence is important.
Correct.
To the public. What happened with NAGICO, say, and the Princess Juliana International Airport? Because that was quite unfortunate. It's still in litigation, right?
Well, not really. What has happened is the airport, you know, they submit a claim of a massive amount, and well, you've seen it in the news. So there's nothing that I will say to you that was not in the news, right? The airport claimed close to $140 million. They didn't have damages, in our view, anywhere near that. We contested it. Our adjusters came up with a certain preliminary number.
Yeah.
It was a pure preliminary number. People have to then submit their estimates and get quantification of the loss, right? We, up to this day, we've never received any contractor's estimates from the airport.
Never received an estimate?
Not from any contractors. What we've got is that they brought in a consultant, and the consultant created this spreadsheet of this is what the likely losses are, and it came up to 100+ million plus 30 million in business interruption, so it's like 140 million. And we are saying no, NAGICO's duty is only to repair the airport as it was. And whilst we understand and recognize that you have to rebuild the airport probably stronger, and maybe the plan is to also expand the airport for all kinds of other plans the airport have ongoing for the last several years, that's not our responsibility. We're not responsible for any pre-existing condition. We're not responsible for things that you intend to do to improve the place. And the judge said that in his ruling. If you read the ruling, the judge was very clear that NAGICO's duty is to repair and not to replace if the cost of repair is less. We don't have to pay for improvements the airport want to make. We don't have to pay for any pre-existing damage, so we can't pay for your maintenance things and what have you. And that's clearly written in the judgment. So the amount that the airport eventually got awarded, based on what the judge came up with, is about the same amount I had offered the airport behind closed doors 6 months ago. So as far as NAGICO is concerned, we have been vindicated by this, that, you know, the airport got just over 1/3 of what they were claiming. And in my view, it's probably going to be somewhere around there. We still have to go through several items that parties have not yet provided complete estimates, and we still, as I said, never got contractors' estimates, which usually is the basis for you to file a claim, because a consultant can come up with any amount, any number, and they could prepare an estimate based on a complete refurbishment, improvement, built to category 5, 185 miles an hour winds. But if you had a category 3 level building, NAGICO's responsibility is not to rebuild it to 185 miles an hour resistant, right? And all of these things we make the case. So, you know, there are certain parts of the decision that we will continue to look at what our options are. We will pay the airport what the judge says. There is no question about that. There was never any question about that. I know some people go, oh, NAGICO probably not paying because they don't have reinsurance. You hear those kinds of nonsense, you know. But since the decision of the airport, I have seen a lot of people who have been coming to NAGICO to insure. People that never insured with NAGICO, now insuring with NAGICO. And a lot of them are saying that, you know, in one particular case, a very well-known, respected guy, it's not insured with us, so I asked him why you choose us now, you know? And he said, well, first of all, I have friends who were insured with NAGICO, and they're happy with their settlements with NAGICO. But secondly, if you could pay the airport over $50 million, if you could pay one client over $50 million, I want to be insured with you. And that is the reality, right? So how many companies, how many insurance companies around operating in the Caribbean and here in St. Martin can actually have the means, the reinsurance and all the possibilities to pay one client that kind of money? It tells you something that, you know, we are an extremely reliable company. We may disagree sometimes, but we're a very reliable company, and we're a very strong company to be able to do that. Because I can tell you, some insurance, most of the other insurance companies probably haven't probably paid that kind of money for all the claims on St. Martin. If you total all their claims, it probably wouldn't reach the amount we would pay for the airport alone. So, so I don't feel any animosity towards the airport. I never did, never will. I think the airport needs to be rebuilt. I think that they need to get on with it, honestly. I felt that it's been dragging there for almost a year. We gave them $25 million at first, $25 million. And in most people, anybody with any degree of knowledge would say, well, why did we start paying them from October? From the 2nd of October, we started giving them money. And why wasn't it used to start and rebuild? I mean, we have other airports in the Caribbean that we insure. They're all virtually finished repairs and in full operation very soon after, except ours. But at the same time, like I said, you know, I recognize that perhaps this was an opportunity that the airport could take when there's damage and hotels are damaged, to do all the expansions and renovations that they needed to do anyway, right? Like the only difference, and I have no issues with that, and I think that it's probably not a bad idea for them to completely refurbish and get the things going. And we have a beautiful new state-of-the-art airport. The only difference is, but how much do we pay for that, right? That's a major difference. How much do we pay for that? Because that's not our responsibility to do all the improvements and the expansions and all the other things we need to do.
So you think this whole matter will be finalized before the end of this year?
I think so. I think there are appeal options that you know, we have, they have as well. Parties will look at those things. We still have to get down to the nitty-gritty of the real hard estimates for repair.
Which they still have to provide, of
Which
course.
still have to be provided in large part, yes. But we don't expect, honestly, we don't expect that the movement of the claim is going to be significant either way, up or down. I think, somewhere around the number the judge decides is probably about right. I mean, it could go down or it can go up a little bit, but I don't see significant changes to the decision. So it's just a matter of parties ironing out whatever disputed items are there. I think the judge identified 3 or 4 items out of 20 plus and figured that we need, these are disputed items and need to concentrate on those.
Did NAGICO have any other large hotels insured with NAGICO on the island?
Yeah, we had Oyster Bay, Bel Air Hotel, Portocopicoy, a few.
So all those were settled?
Yes, mostly settled. Bel Air, we still have to finalize a few things, but there is a discussion going on with us and Oyster Bay. We paid the limit of the policy, but there is an issue about certain limits and so on. But those are client confidentiality information, and I would say that most of the people we are dealing with are quite happy with what's going on.
It seems like when you have a limit on the policy, sometimes it's not a wise thing to do, especially when you have a storm like Irma.
Right. Yes. No, but some people, most people will put a limit on the policy for, say, hurricane damages, and so because of, premiums and costs, because premiums are high in the Caribbean. But the Caribbean is a very exposed area, and these premiums are determined mostly by reinsurers. Not us. We don't sit there and tweak the numbers totally by ourselves. It's driven by the cost of reinsurance. But to answer your question, most of the larger places we have, some are still in discussion, but for the most part, it's moving forward satisfactorily.
If you compare Lewis with Irma, what do you view as the biggest difference between those two hurricanes, 95 and 2017?
Varying views, I feel that Lewis was actually a bit more widespread in damages. It affected the whole island in a very devastating way, right? Where no part of the island was spared. Whereas Irma was powerful and really destroyed some areas massively, and some areas not so bad.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, if you say in Lewis, for the first week, you probably couldn't drive to St. Peter's and Ebenezer and those places. It was so bad, right? Everywhere, even like Betty Estate, Cay Hill, massively destroyed, massive damages, St. John's area and so on. They didn't have as many houses in St. John's.
And electricity was not on the ground at that time.
And electricity and so was mostly up. So the damage was very, I think people forget very quickly. But my own experience is that I feel Lewis was far more widespread in damage and very, very catastrophic in every bit and part of the island. Now, Irma took out certain parts. For example, it damaged, let's say, the airport. But the airport, which is, of course, part of the contention we have, you drive now at the airport and more than 95% of the glass is intact. The superstructure is fine, right? The roof is badly damaged. You have to fix that. And then, of course, water come in and the all the furnishings are damaged, so all those things have to be done, and you know. So, but what I'm saying is, we didn't have an airport like that in 1995. What we had got some significant whacking though, right? And they were insured with us, from my memory, and we took care of it. And then you have Maho was probably more damaged at this storm, like Sonesta Maho.
Right.
And Great Bay Hotel, but Sonesta Maho, much more damage in this storm because the pure power of 185, right? And then you see Maho closed and Irma destroyed it the way it did. But also in 1995, Maho suffered a lot of damage, not as much as this, but not far away, which is why it's so strange with hurricanes, because they bring volcanoes, little volcanoes in them, vortices and so on. But right not far away from Maho, Mullet Bay was destroyed by Lewis.
Completely.
Right? So when you weigh that, you would say, okay, Irma took out Sonesta Maho, Lewis took out Mullet Bay. I remember that casino building was flattened, you know. So I think if Irma had lasted another 4 or 5 hours, I don't know, because it was definitely a more powerful storm.
It moved really fast.
Right, but it moved fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So people who built well, like a lot of people who rebuilt after Lewis, I think they were able to stand firm with Irma for a while. But if Irma had continued for another 4 or 5 hours, I don't want to imagine the destruction that would have taken place. Yeah. And whereas Lewis was, as you could remember, 39 hours.
Yeah, it's long. Thought it would never end.
Thought it would never end, believe me, the people. So I would say that both. We paid a lot of money after Lewis on this island, and sometimes people forget, you know, what NAGICO has done for this island and other islands after these major storms. But I recall, you know, Lewis. We were spending so much money, so much damages, so much grief was on this island, and we were very instrumental in paying so many people and returning the island back to some normalcy. Because let's face it, OG, for the last, well, maybe now we start to see the real flow of the funds coming in from the Dutch assistance. But the reality is that it's insurance funds, really, since the hurricane, from then until maybe a couple months ago, insurance funds really that was keeping the island floating, and large part of those funds would have been from NAGICO.
Well, safe to say the 10 months since Irma, it was insurance funds.
Exactly, basically. This is what I'm saying. And of course we have reinsurance, and the reinsurers are paying. But it is sometimes a lost fact, and people, a lot of people know and appreciate it, but some people know and don't appreciate it, and some simply don't appreciate it, right? But all I could say is that the insurance companies, you know, have done all of them. NAGICO's obviously the largest by far. So
and the largest also in St. Martin, right?
Yes. So we are one that is affected, you know, mostly. But at the same time, it means that we are the ones contributing the most for the rebuilding of the island as well. We're the ones pumping in the most on this island. We will end up paying on St. Martin, between Dutch and French side, over $500 million.
$500 million?
Yes.
Wow.
Definitely on this island. So, I mean, we're about close to, with the airport now settled, we're probably close to over 400 and plus million already dollars. So you're going to get over $500 million for sure. I'm sure. By the time we finish settling everything this side and front side, yes.
A lot of people talk about homes and buildings, etc. But I noticed with Hurricane Irma, a lot of cars got damaged. You had a lot of pelting vehicle damage?
Massive amount of cars. I think Irma did more damage to cars than Lewis did.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? That's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel the same.
And that is because I guess the sheer speed, the sheer power of Irma, when things start to fly, there's no way windshields will survive. I mean, the same happened in Lewis. We had a lot of car claims as well in Lewis, you know. But I think that Irma damaged more cars. I think so.
So when it comes to insurance, you think people understand the insurance business by now, seeing that they went through Lewis in '95, now Irma in 2017, that they will be aware of how they should buy insurance for their property?
Well, I think that people will certainly wake up with a bit more awareness. Whether they will heed to, you know, some of the major concerns that came out as a result of it, I don't know. I think some certainly will do something about their policies. If nobody was aware about, say, on the insurance, for example, which was, to me, one of the biggest issue we have had to deal with in, not only in St. Martin, everywhere, is the question of on the insurance.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I hear a lot of people complaining. Maybe you can answer this better. You're the face of NAGICO. You've been there from the inception of the company, right?
Yeah.
And I hear people complaining that if the insurance tell them they're underinsured, and the insurance should inform them at the time when they're paying their premium annually that they're underinsured. Is that obligation of the insurance company?
Well, nothing is really obligatory because at the end of the day, the final choice is on the property owner.
Okay.
Right? The property owner actually has a better knowledge of the value of their property. I mean, if I try to go and buy your property, you know the value. You know what it's worth.
Right.
You have a pretty good idea what your property is worth, right? So you should have a pretty good idea what you should insure it for, right? So most people have a pretty good idea what their property is worth and what they should insure it for, but there's a question of costs that comes in play. And the premiums after Lewis was high. Let's face it, it's all over the Caribbean. The premiums are high, and we don't fault people, and we can't demand on people that they must insure for the right values. What we do is that we send in their renewal notices. We would send attachments or on the notice. If you have a notice, you look at it, you will see on the notice it says, appraise your property to avoid the on insurance, right? So, but most people probably wouldn't read the notice because, you know, it's like the traffic laws, right? You understand some of the traffic laws, but you're not going to go read the traffic laws, would you?
Exactly.
Well, it's the same. So, and then you will breach certain things, not because you want to necessarily, but you know, this is unfortunate because one of the things that I've noticed is that while some people put the blame on the insurance company, whether it's NAGICO, and I've heard the same stories about other insurance companies with the same on the insurance problems. It's not unique to us. We are just the biggest, the largest, so we are the ones you're going to hear about the most.
It's industry-wide. Right?
Yeah, but it's an industry-wide problem. If you Google on the insurance in the Caribbean, you will be seeing it everywhere from Dominica to Puerto Rico. We don't even do business in Puerto Rico. It's one of the biggest problems in Puerto Rico. So it's not a NAGICO problem. If not, Puerto Rico would have been free of that problem. U.S. Virgin Islands would have been free of that problem. But they all suffer from that same problem. And again, the insurance companies, see, I try to explain this to people. The insurance companies don't want people to underinsure. We make our money by you paying more premiums. We are in business for you to pay us the most premiums we can get you to pay. Why would we want you to underinsure? I would have preferred if everybody was properly insured over the last 25 years and I had collected another $2 million in premiums, as everybody's adequately insured. And then when the time comes now, I don't have to apply underinsurance on some people and have this problem on my head. I would have preferred by far collecting the $50 million in additional premiums that was saved by people by not being adequately insured. NAGICO would make its money that way. The reinsurers make their money that way. So there is no deliberate act. There is no hidden agenda with this. It has no benefit whatsoever to the insurance companies to do that. But the law is the law, the rule is the rule, the policy is the policy. And if you have a policy, for $100,000 and you're building, only the roof is gone and it should be $20,000 therefore, because a roof with some ceiling could be about 20% of the value of your property. So you have the foundation, the walls, the floors, everything else. The thing is, if you then come and submit a claim to us for your roof and the claim comes to $60,000, then we are going to say it's either it is overestimated or you're underinsured, because the house is certainly not 60% damaged. It's not as difficult as it appears. It's a very simple thing that adjusters use. They check the cost that you submit for the loss. They check the percentage of damages you've suffered, and they do a balance, right? So we don't really want people to do that. We prefer if people insure properly and pay us the extra premium, because that way we make more money, and in the good years we'll make more money, in the bad years we'll pay more claims. But that's the world of insurance.
All right.
That's how it works.
So we have to go to a break. We'll come right back right here on Oral Gibbs Live. Please do this.
At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport.
In case you've just joined us, you're watching Oral Gibbs Live. I'm here speaking with the chairman of NAGICO Group, Mr. Amjad. We're taking your calls at 54-221-70, 54-221-70. The whole issue of on the insurance and so forth, for example, if a person doesn't have appraisal reports annually, is it safe to say, well, this year I'll just put on 10% on my policy to make up for not having an appraisal report? Is that wise to do?
Some people do that. Some people, and in some parts of the world, they do it automatically. Every year they increase your policy automatically by the
inflation
index rate and so on. But a lot of people object to that as well. And so most companies now have stopped that practice because that practice is not something that that a lot of people are happy with. So you can't just automatically increase my premium. I budgeted for X premium, now you're telling me it's more. So
but you avoid on insurance.
But you avoid on insurance, but you pay more premium, you know. So it's a two-way street. And I was telling you during the break that also about 90%, and in property, I would say 95% of properties in St. Martin, the clients have a broker, an agent. And so not always should it be that NAGICO, as the insurance company, must be directly involved in trying to get people to insure the adequate amount. That's why agents and brokers are there, to give that kind of advice and give that kind of guidance. And we speak about on the insurance. We have conferences here in St. Martin. One stage, we used to keep a conference in St. Martin every year, sometimes twice. And these things get discussed at all the conferences. So agents and brokers are familiar with the on the insurance and non-insurance problem. And as I said, most property insurance, 95% of our property insurance, there is an agent involved, right? And in most cases where we've had the on the insurance, also there is a bank involved, most cases. So most people who have had their properties where on the insurance was applied, there was a bank involved. The bank should have a pretty good idea, because if you have a loan at a bank, it's still part of their assets, right? It's still part of their risk, right? So they should be able to see that you have a building that is worth maybe $300,000-400,000, because the banks will insist more on an appraisal because their risks are directly connected to the value of the property, right? Whereas insurance have no direct risk to the value. We pay based on what you choose to insure. So I'm saying that the responsibility for this is everybody's. You know, it is NAGICO's, it is the insurers, it is the agents and the brokers, and it is the banks and the financial people as well. And ultimately, it is the responsibility of the home owner or the property owner, because, like I said before, we all have a pretty good idea what our properties are worth. If not, people will be selling their property at half price, right? Left, right, and center. But you know, they don't do that because they have a pretty good idea what their property is worth.
Especially here in St. Martin, for sure.
Yes.
But then with an on-the-insured property that there's a mortgage with the bank comes out losing.
Well, exactly. But not always, because if...
Depend on the damage.
Yes, depend on the damage. And in some cases, even when some on the insurance is applied, it depends on the estimate and so on. So the on the insurance is applied because the estimates are very high. And I know several people who where on the insurance was applied, but the money that they got was sufficient to repair their property. Right, so so the banks don't have that risk, but also the banks sometimes, you know, may have you as a client for many years, and your loan starts at maybe 200,000, but by the time the hurricane comes, it is only 100,000 or 50,000. You know, so even if there was some on the insurance application, the house is now worth 300,000. Okay, it's damaged, it can't be rebuilt the way it was, but most people will find a way. The bank can even refinance you because the value of the property, even if uninsured, is still superior to the balance of the remaining loan. So the motivation is not always there to insist either on additional insurance, because additional insurance means an additional burden to the property owner because it means their monthly expenses just increase.
So, as an insurance company, you would say your main concerns are on the insurance and what else, basically?
That's one of the main issues. I'm saying our concerns are many. You know, there are some people who insure their buildings only and don't insure their contents. That is a concern. And people, after the storm, you see all your contents destroyed, but you only have insurance on the buildings, and that has happened so many times. You know, and again, who do you blame for that? Maybe we could advise you, or your agent could advise you that you must insure your contents as well. But if you don't, we can't force you to. But a storm comes, and then you realize, geez, I don't have any insurance on the contents. And then some people try to make up for not having enough on the contents, not in an illegal way, or I'm not saying that they're doing anything criminal, but to try to see what they can get on the building so that they can assist them also with the contents. And you know, these are things that that happen all the time, and you try to reach people to a point, and you try to make sure that they are satisfied at the final settlement. And like I said, more than 90% of the people were satisfied, so that's okay. But there are other concerns like that. There are things like, for example, if you have lights in the yard, they're not covered for storms, right? So you get people who will fret about things like that. And there are policies you can buy to cover all these things.
We now started. About that.
Oh yes, we just, if you see, there's an ad we have something called the Hurricane Extra policy, where you can insure your fence, your lights in the yard, your plants, your trees. Yeah, true. You know, we have a policy we're selling right now. Yeah, so
you come over, take a picture of the yard, and what's there?
Yeah, the people take and you buy a unit. Let's say it's $10,000.
Yeah.
So a $10,000 policy will cost about $700, I think. For this, we call it the Hurricane Extra. You can buy it.
Can I insure my dogs too?
People think no, we don't insure the dogs. So what we do insure is if your dog bites somebody as a homeowner.
Then you can get insurance.
Yeah, we do cover you for that. But I'm saying, so you pay $700 extra a year, and you have $10,000 coverage, and even if a storm does not hit as hard, but it damages your trees and your plants, right? Yeah. To such an extent, we will pay you. If a Category 5 storm comes, we'll pay you your $10,000, and you can use it to put back your trees, your plants, whatever it is. So there are policies. We launched that policy a couple months or last month or so, and it's. I hope people will make use of it.
Is it normal in the industry? Or?
No, it's something relatively new we came out with, because so many people have been asking us about their landscaping. There are people who have a lot of value in their yard, plants and trees. I mean, do you know how much money you have to spend back replacing these trees and buying them back and gardening and if you have yard lights to avoid thieves and all these things, it costs a lot of money. So we came out with this plan. We have a top reinsurer that supports us with this plan, that we can insure everything that you want to insure, including your plants.
I notice a lot of people are not aware of the policy until a hurricane comes. And what you find is that, okay, well, it's just the house, but nothing that's outside the house is included in the policy. This policy you mentioned now would also include that.
Yeah, things that are outside and everything, So you take a policy for the house, and then you buy a separate cover for additional things that will include plants, trees, light, whatever it is.
And they also include railings around the porch. Those
yeah. But the pool and so is normally covered. So that normally comes with a building, and we cover that automatically.
Okay. what you would like to see, I'm sure you've experienced a lot of things in the last 11 months since
Right.
Irma. What surprised you the most?
Human nature, I suppose. Human nature. People that you thought relatively straightforward and even your friend, you'd be amazed what kind of claims get submitted, You'd be amazed at how ferociously people react, and even sometimes knowing full well that the claim itself is ridiculous, right? But it is human nature, I suppose, that some people will react in ways that will shock you, and I guess Irma, it was a shocking thing. It's a shocking event. It shocks people, and you feel insecure, and you feel that you need to, get into survival mode. So some people also, if some people look around and say, business, hotels will be closed on this island, business will be down, people are leaving, I wouldn't get house rent, I wouldn't get this, there are all kinds of things that are going to happen, even though we pay for loss of rent. So we help people out with that. But people panic and then thinks that, the insurance is the only resource available to them for probably the next year. So everybody wants to get as much as they can, from the insurance. And the insurance also want to ensure that they don't pay excessive amount where people don't take advantage of it, because the idea, like one person asked me, says, can people insure for their profits? People can insure for profits, right? I said, yes, in a business you can insure for profits, and you're covered for that if you have that business
but
interruption.
you have to prove it too.
Right? Yeah, so you have to prove it, and you can be insured for that, yes. But what you can't be insured for is profiteering, right?
I like how you put it.
Yes. So you can insure for a lot of these things, and and that creates. So after Irma, I would say that those were the more difficult things to deal with, dealing with because the world is full of all types, and the world is interesting because it's full of all types. But the reality is that there are people in the world that are reasonable. I think I'm a very reasonable man. I would listen to reason, and I would reason with people, and I will try to be fair and try to be helpful and all of that. And some people might say I'm not reasonable. And I would say that I know many people after the storm proved to me they're not reasonable at all, that there are a lot of unreasonable people, and it makes up what the world is. So we can't complain too much. We just have to take people as they are and try to deal with the issues that are presented to you in the most fair and reasonable manner, and ensure that parties get to the point where they can settle and agree. And so far, I'm happy to say, in less than 1 year, we are about 95% settled and paid.
All right.
Right? Out of nearly 18,000 claims in the region. So I feel pretty good about it. I feel that NAGICO has now come to the rescue of a lot of people in St. Martin, in other islands, 3 times now in the last 25 years, right? Within 25 years. As Lewis, we paid, tons of money to rebuild this island and people's lives and homes and so on. And a lot of people forget Lenny and how much money NAGICO paid.
That was 1999.
NAGICO paid a lot of money for Lenny. Lenny totally, the whole of Phillipsburg was underwater.
Yeah.
Right? Well, just imagine the kind of damages you're talking about when the whole of Phillipsburg, Marigot, parts of this island underwater.
For a long time.
For a long time. And who paid for most of these things? NAGICO. A lot of the people, a lot of the business places in Phillipsburg and so on are insured with NAGICO, and we paid, right? So we had Lewis, then we had Lenny, and now we have Irma, and we're 95% done. You know, I think it says a lot about NAGICO as a company. I personally believe that as a St. Martin company, we should be very, very proud that this company would create records, and we don't toot our horns about it as much. One time I got a message, I think from Michael Ferrier, who said that, you know, we should really do better at marketing these things, because he thought we've done a tremendous job here, but people don't know it, you know. But we were busy spending time looking after people's claims, not try to get kudos out of it, you know. We felt our efforts were better concentrated and spent on looking after the claims rather than boasting what we do. But I will say this, by the time we finish with this entire hurricane, all islands in the Caribbean, and we paid everybody, NAGICO would be the insurance company to have paid the most in any catastrophe year. From any catastrophe year, we would be the insurance company that have paid the most in the Caribbean, in the English or Dutch Caribbean ever in history.
All right, we got to go.
And the St. Martin company has done it.
Got to be proud of that.
So,
yeah,
yes.
homegrown.
Yeah. Homegrown.
All right, we'll be right back. Please tell us right here now, Oral Gibbs Live.
At NAGICO, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're fully covered after an accident, the security of your home and everything in it that means so much to you. And knowing that even when the weather does its worst, you and your family are covered. At NAGICO, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
Welcome back to Oral Gibbs Live, and we're coming to you live here from World Star Studios at Amsterdam Shopping Center, and speaking with the chairman of NAGICO Group, Mr. Amjad, and with here, time is going so fast, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
we only have a few minutes remaining.
Yeah.
You know, we said just before the break about NAGICO, and NAGICO was founded in St. Martin. You're in how many countries now in the region, in the Caribbean?
We have an office on 26 islands.
26 islands, yeah. And so you're confident in the future of NAGICO?
Oh, absolutely. We would be the company, as I was saying, to have paid the most claims from any catastrophe year, the most for any insurance company in the history of the Dutch and English Caribbean. That's a record that NAGICO would be very proud of, and St. Martin should be very proud of, because we're a St. Martin company.
Yeah.
My staff are all from St. Martin. You know, we're working very hard. This is all my, I would say 98% of my staff are from St. Martin. That works here with me. So we should be very proud of it, I think. I am very proud. We will be paying close to $1 billion in claims. It will get close to 900 million for sure, you know, but so that's close to $1 billion. How many companies ever, never in the history of any one company paid that much in the English and Dutch Caribbean? So NAGICO, we are very proud of it. We have paid, our reinsurers have stood by us, they have supported us, they have sent the funds to us on a timely basis so we could pay people. You get a few hiccups every now and again, you know, with something. You get some dissatisfaction, you get some media articles that are not favorable. I guess insurance companies are not one necessarily considered favorable after major hurricanes, but they're good and bad, you know. And the good side is that a lot of people would not probably have been able to rebuild their lives and their businesses without insurance, right? So that is a satisfaction that I have and all of us at NAGICO have. We are very proud of NAGICO as a company. I'm very proud of my staff. Most of them turn up to work from morning and stay there till 10 at night. I mean, how many people, you hear people talking about, people in St. Martin don't like to work. Well, I could tell you, most of mine are born here, and they go to work from 8 o'clock, and they work from 8 to 8, and sometimes 8 to 10 every day for months. And I'm very proud of it. And I feel that I have been a good leader of these people, and I'm able to motivate people to work and to chip in when necessary, and they can come together at the worst, most catastrophic time and be there for thousands of people, thousands, 18,000, you know, in terms of Maria and Irma, both hurricanes. So very proud of what we have done here at NAGICO, very proud of our record. We have been around now for 36, going on 37 years, and we are no fly-by-night company. You will have a company every now and again come and you hear, you know, maybe, yes, this company is so, and this company is good, and this company is that. How many have done it so consistently? I just cited 3 major hurricanes to you that we took care of. But in between, there was Gonzalo a few years ago. There was Omar, there was Otto, so many in between as well. And we've taken care of everybody and everything, including Montserrat Volcano and everything. So NAGICO is a very proud Caribbean company. And we are proud to be a Caribbean company that is from St. Martin.
And would stand the test.
And would stand the test of everything.
Yes. I want to thank you for coming in. And you're the face of NAGICO. You're the person that people place a lot of confidence in, your background, your experience, your sincerity. We appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And that's it for now. See you next time. Until then, good night. Take care. Bye.